It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Minds. Welcome. My name is Aproko, and thanks a lot for joining us. It's been a very heavy week for Nigeria. I think I say that every Sunday. And sometimes you think the country can top itself, especially with regards to insecurity. But the past week has been pretty scary for a lot of people. And it's cutting across all regions. And there's a lot that we need to be talking about and hopefully doing with this, and we're going to be discussing some of that much later on in the show, so please stick around for that. But first, the 25th of April is World Malaria Day, and we're going to be starting off the conversation today talking about what is still a deadly disease on this continent, especially Nigeria, and what we should be hopefully looking at with regards to combating this deadly disease and going forward. But first, let's take a look at this quick vox pop we had on malaria, and we'll come back.
Malaria, yeah. Yes, I have.
Yes, definitely yes. I'm a Nigerian.
Yes, I have.
Of course, yes.
Definitely, a couple of times. It's never nice to be ill. It's always very, what's the word to use? Very sad, honestly, because it takes away everything. Your appetite is gone, your strength. It just messes up with your body.
It's like trying to survive something you didn't expect malaria can be that serious.
What I hate most about malaria is it makes me weak, makes me lazy. I don't do things at home.
The fever, weakness, many things.
What I hate, the joint pains, fever, not being yourself, being almost incapacitated, so.
I think it's the tiredness that comes with.
I try to fumigate my environment as often as possible, even though I notice that when you do it, the next day you still see mosquitoes around.
The usual, use insecticides when you notice that, and keep your doors and windows closed.
What we do to protect malaria is for us to keep our surroundings clean.
For me, I sleep under the mosquito net and I make sure my baby does same.
Basically, don't stay around stagnant water.
I treat myself often, go for regular checkups every 3 months actually.
Yeah, basically I know that most days are celebrated, and I think malaria is actually one of the days that are probably celebrated. And I also remember 25th of April, if I'm sure, World Malaria Day.
It's just a day to create awareness about malaria, basically.
I've heard about what malaria day.
They are doing nothing. Everybody is fighting for himself. Government is doing nothing about malaria.
In Nigeria, I think the government can do better, and in the sense that they can actually make sure that the drugs are available and affordable for everybody. Whether you like it or not, if you go to the pharmacy and you want to get a good malaria drug, you would actually spend up to 1,000 naira. And for some people, that's not affordable. Yes, I do believe we can end malaria in our generation, considering the fact that we have a lot of billionaires in this generation, and I think they are doing a whole lot when it comes to charity, helping people, and sending pharmaceuticals down to Africa. And I think even in Africa, we are doing a whole lot with our herbal, trado medicine. So, yeah, we can.
All right, welcome back. Yes, I think that's a very familiar conversation for every single Nigerian. It's almost impossible to find a Nigerian who's not had malaria at some point in their life. So I think this is something everybody can relate with. I have here with me Dr. Bobby Egemba. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We know you more as Aproko doctor
yeah.
on Twitter, which is very interesting because social media and medicine, most people wouldn't have thought of that. Why did that become important to you to use that, to advocate, if I want to say the word?
So I realized that a lot of our habits and practices are influenced directly by what we know. What we know is directly influenced by, conversations from other people. And the average Nigerian youth spends about 1 to 2 hours per day on social media. So why not take the message to them? Seeing as the conversation is shifting, or rather the future of healthcare is no longer where your health is in the doctor's hands, but rather when your health is in your hands, when you're involved in decision-making about your health.
Yeah.
And people need to be aware. And, social media is like the best place for...
I find that very interesting, though, because one of the biggest money spinners for doctors, at least that's what we think, is consultancy, where you come in and you pay some money to get advice on your health. But you're doing this people ask you questions, you give it out. How does that affect you? And do you get some backlash from your colleagues saying, guy, you're selling this market for free?
Yeah, so initially I had some backlash. People said, this is not information that should be out there. This is information that should be restricted to, the few. It's the know. You don't just give it out freely. But then again, I had the argument that, look, the more people know about their health, the better decisions they can make. The better decisions they make, the less sick people are in the hospitals. Nigeria has one of the worst health indices in the world. And one of the reasons this happens is simply because our health centers are overwhelmed. Our doctors are overwhelmed. And so if we have healthier people as Nigerians, we have more time to focus on the sick people who are in the hospitals and prevent them from overloading. Yeah.
Well, we are grateful for that. I don't know about your colleagues, but we're definitely grateful. So it's World Malaria Day. And of course, I think the goal is supposed to be having malaria-free world by 2025, which is in 4 years. Let's limit the conversation to Nigeria where we are. Do you think this is achievable with what you're seeing?
Okay, I think it's achievable if we pay the right attention, if we give it the prominence it needs, because...
Are we doing that?
I would say to some extent, yes, because... yes, there are initiatives here and there. The health minister just flagged an initiative in April, just a few weeks ago. But the numbers are saying otherwise. For example, in 2019, 409 people died from malaria worldwide. 23% of that number was from Nigeria. And so, we need to pay more attention to how significant malaria contributes to our healthcare in Nigeria, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I don't just think it's rolling malaria initiatives here and there. I still think there has to be an interplay of every part or every arm of the government coming. For example, one of the ways to prevent malaria is using insecticide-treated nets. But the very most common complaint about insecticide-treated nets is that it's very uncomfortable to sleep under if you're not in an air-conditioned environment. The people we expect to use this live in shacks, live in one-room apartments with a very small window. You don't expect them to, use an insecticide-treated net in that kind of environment. So it goes beyond information.
Yeah,
there has to be more interplay behind and.
I like the fact that you talked about government there, because most times I get a sense that a lot of Nigerians now believe that, malaria prevention is their business. Like you said, mosquito nets, your environment should be clean and all of that, which of course is true. But the role of government sometimes is lost on people. And I don't know how government comes in. Does policy, for example, affect what can be done with regards to preventing malaria? Is it just this, or is the larger burden on us as individuals to help fight this?
I think the larger burden has to be shared. If we look at countries who have defeated malaria, so to speak, or who do not have the burden of malaria, they don't have those things that we tell people to do. So, for example, clean the area around you, ensure that you don't have clogged, water bodies around you.
Yeah.
I was in Oto, that's at Oyimbo, a few days ago. We had like a cleanup session right there, and one thing I got to understand was a lot of people who lived in that environment lived in very dirty environments. Ironically, there's a Loma office just down the road. And people used, dirt and everything to raise the level of their ground so that, when it floods, they can have something to step on. You can't effectively defeat malaria in that kind of environment. That is where the government has to come in.
Yeah.
You tell them, okay, fine, clear your environment, but we need the dirt. We use it to walk on. So it's just, there has to be more government roles in effectively eradicating malaria.
Yeah.
It's not just people. If we have better housing, we're not going to talk about, clean your nets. If we have people who are more literate, they tend to take better decisions about their health than people who are not. And so it's more of an interplay than just, having malaria programs here and there and, having one session and educating people about malaria.
Or one day.
Or one day, for instance,
Yeah.
and then you do malaria test for about 3, 4, 20 people. And, oh, yes, so what did you do in these states? We effectively eradicated malaria. No, there has to be a lot more.
What's a more realistic timeline for you, for example, with regards to this malaria-free world? There are people who believe it will never go away, especially in these parts. Is this something you think has a timeline, like realistically?
For me, realistically, 20 years from now, because, just like we mentioned earlier, we need to have people who are more literate. We need to eradicate poverty. These are the things, because the people who suffer the most from malaria are this class of people. People who can afford it may not necessarily die from it. The kids, the children who are under 5, and the pregnant women who are the most at risk of developing, severe complications of malaria, it's more 20 years.
Yeah.
And, it has to be systematic, not this government comes in, eradicates everything the previous government has done, just because you want to make your name.
So 20 years even has to be intentional. We're not expecting it to just go away like that. Well, thank you very much. We're going to be going over to Abuja now.